The Jets have already had a very active offseason so far with the hiring of Aaron Glenn, and now his sights are going on are focused on how he can improve the Jets in the 2025 NFL Draft. My name's Tyler, here with my brother Ryan, and we are going to be breaking down our first three-round mock draft for the New York Jets in the upcoming 2025 NFL Draft. But before we do that, if you like the content that Ryan and I put out and you want to help the Tracy take grow, easiest way is hitting that subscribe button, tackling that bell, and leaving a like and a comment. Let us know what you think of the mock and why. And Ryan, let's pull up this mock draft here. And so I think the biggest thing first for the Jets is so now they've hired their head coach, and I think now sights are going to be on Aaron Rodgers. I think what do they want to
Yeah.
do with Aaron Rodgers here? And to me personally, I think they should keep Aaron Rodgers just because of like I don't know, he had a statistically a pretty good season last year. I don't know who they can go in and get. I don't think Sam Darnold wants to go back to New York. I guess unless they pay him a bunch of money, and the Jets don't have the money to spend right now. And so I think they bring him back here. And so there's a lot of different ways they can go around with the seventh overall pick. If Ted McMillan falls to them, I I think that could be a good route because they're probably going to let Devontae Adams go with the amount of cap space that they can create by cutting him. They could maybe keep on improving that offensive line and getting Will Campbell, who was available. We ended up going with the Mason Graham route, pairing him up with Quinton Williams, which is like that's just an absolute amazing match for this entire team. Keep this
Yeah.
defense top notch. Mason Graham, if you want to talk about like the blue chips, he could potentially be one of the few blue chips in this class. He's just had an amazing career at Michigan, one of the best defensive tackles in this class, one of the best defensive tackles we've seen in a long time. And I think he's going to have a great career with New York here. What do you think of Mason Graham? What do you think of some of the other? What do you think of some of the other Jets' potential options that they could go for here at the seventh overall pick?
Yeah. For me, I mean, so I'm a Patriots fan. I'll just go ahead and say that like right off the bat. I would hate this because I think this is makes that front four just so formidable. They would be able to do so many different things with especially with Aaron Glenn's defensive mind. So many different things with that front four. Jermaine Johnson coming back from injury. You have Will McDonald on the other side, and then you get Mason Graham, Quinton Williams in the middle. And that's just a really, really solid group that can really get after the passer. But then you still have Sauce Gardner and CJ Mosley and some of the other guys on the backside of this defense that are also really good. And I think that would be really frustrating for a lot of teams to go up against. And so it's not the sexiest pick. It's not the wide receiver that you want, but I do think that they would win a lot of games with this front four being the way that it is. So I like that. If they don't want to go Mason Graham, I do think if Tet is there, that could be the pick. I don't necessarily think edge rusher is really at the top of the list, just based off of the fact that they have Jermaine Johnson and not
Will
Will Campbell,
McDonald.
Will McDonald there as well. So I do think Tyler Warren invest in that tight end spot would be interesting. And then if they want to go with the other defensive tackle from Michigan, Kenneth Grant, and get more run stuffing capabilities, I think that could be a fit there as well. So there's a lot of different options for the Jets. Now that we know who the head coach is, I think we can kind of further predict who is going to be available or who's going to be more of the pick there. I think Mason Graham fills I'll say air quotes need, fills a need there next to Quinton Williams and is probably just the best player on the board.
Well, especially too, if we go look at that Detroit defense before all the injuries, is like they really want to have a solid,
Yeah.
or like solid is actually an understatement. Like they wanted to have like a top notch defensive line so they can drop a lot of guys back in coverage. And Aaron Glenn's going to be coming into pretty like if you go look at the talent on this defensive side of the ball. Yes, DJ Reed is a free agent, so they might lose him. There are some other corners that they can maybe bring in, or if they want to re-sign him and still have like the two-headed monster with Sauce Gardner, DJ Reed, that'd be a very interesting combination as well. But I think you already have Quinton Williams there. You get Mason Graham, and as you already talked about with the edge rushers that they have, I think they could be a very aggressive 4-3 defense where they just rush forward, but they drop back seven, and that's going to be very tough, I think, for a lot of offenses to be successful,
Yeah.
especially too with how quickly these guys can get to the quarterback. So I think they're going to be in a very good spot. I don't think there's too many wrong picks. Even if they did want to go edge rusher, there are some really good edge rushers that are right there that are taken next. As you can see, James Pierce Jr., Nick Scorton, and a couple other guys that we haven't even mentioned yet. So like who are going to be really good. It probably just would be a little bit different of a route than I think we think that they probably should go. So let's
Mhm.
move on now to the second round. This is a guy, Ryan, that you really like. So even in this scenario, though, like They probably are going to cut Devontae Adams. I think it's $30 million in cap space, which that alone would get them in the black, or I should say under the cap. I think that's the same thing in this scenario here. But I think Jayden Higgins would be a guy. I think he'd be a very solid complement to Garrett Wilson. I think the beauty about Garrett Wilson is you can move him around. So a lot of guys are just
Yeah.
going to be solid compliments just in general. A guy like Jayden Higgins, Ryan, this is a guy that you really like, but he had a very solid Pro Bowl. He had a lot of good one-on-one film and just good film in general coming out of Iowa State.
Yeah, and so we talked a lot about Tet McMillan being compared to Drake London in the Patriots video because that was a potential option for them at that first overall pick. But if you miss out on Tet McMillan, Jayden Higgins is a great consolation prize. He, to me, maps out very closely to Drake London as well. He's going to be that 6'4", 215-pound receiver that is much more fluid than you would think for a guy that size. He's going to play a little bit more outside than be moved around the formation, but he can definitely be that kind of slot like Z, play all over the formation if you really want him to. But with Garrett Wilson, I think Jayden Higgins is a great complement to that. He can be that X, win jump ball situations, score touchdowns in the red zone. Doesn't drop a lot of passes. Just a really solid wide receiver that's really fun. And one of the things that he was able to do is show his long speed at the Senior Bowl and actually kind of beat corners over the top, which was one of his questions coming into this draft process.
Yeah. And so I think if you're the Jets there as well, and you do stick with Aaron Rodgers, or if you go a totally different quarterback route, you are just going to want to have more weapons for whoever the quarterback is to throw to. Garrett Wilson can only do so much, and also too outside of that as well, it's not really like Alan Lazard. He's probably also going to be gone. Tyler Conklin, I think, did well with Aaron Rodgers, but I think it's more Aaron Rodgers. I think has loved utilizing his tight ends throughout his career. So still trying to go and get good young skill position player talent as well, especially too while you still have Garrett Wilson to keep, because it just seems like that he's getting more and more frustrated each and every single day throughout every season with the production that he has been seeing. So try and get some other good solid players in there to help with this offensive production, I think would be phenomenal for this team. Lastly, here to wrap up, so they don't have their original third-round pick, but they have the other third-round pick for the Detroit Lions through a trade here. A lot of different routes they can end up going because with their first two picks, we believe that they've hit like some of their other, like their maybe some of their primary needs. So we do have them addressing the offensive line here as well with Brandon Crenshaw-Dickson, offensive lineman, I believe out of Florida.
Right tackle.
Yep, right tackle out of Florida. Sorry, I had a brain fart there. But
No,
yeah, Ryan, I think offensive line is still going to be a need for the team as well. I think they found something. Olu Fushanu, offensive line definitely helped out, definitely improved when he was in there. Unfortunately, he did get hurt towards the end of the season. But some other guys also on the interior definitely picked up. But I think when you go and look and you have a couple of guys like Morgan Moses that are hidden free agency, Tyron Smith hidden free agency, if not already off the team officially, I think still just getting more offensive line depth is going to be a route that they're going to want to go.
Yeah, and Brandon Crenshaw-Dickson, so Morgan Moses is a free agent. I do expect them to try to bring him back, especially at this point in his career. You could sign him to a 1 or 2 year deal and kind of be his finishing spot there for him. But go and getting a guy like Brandon Crenshaw-Dickson, who has all the physical traits that you want out of a tackle. He's going to be 6'7", I think 325, 330, has the length to be successful on the outside. At the NFL level and the athleticism as well to do that. And so I think he just needs some refinement in his game, but overall just a really powerful right tackle in the NFL. And I think he's not, I don't know if he really has like Pro Bowl potential, but to me, I watch him and think if you get him in the right offensive system and you develop him properly, you could have an 8 to 10 year starter out of Brandon Crenshaw-Dickson if he's developed properly. So I really like this pick here. I think it's a good like kind of rounding point for this draft. They address the trenches on the defensive side, they address the trenches on the offensive side, and then go and find a replacement for Devontae Adams. I'll say replacement loosely because Devontae Adams is a really solid receiver. But go and find another receiver to put in that room that can play a role similar to what Devontae Adams did.
Yeah. It's Going to be interesting to see what the Jets end up doing just when you have a new head coaching regime come in, but also too, it's just the Jets as well with the whole situation with Aaron Rodgers. What is that uh, kind of situation going to? Uh, uh, how's that going to unfold? I believe that they will probably stick with Aaron Rodgers because I also think they just don't really have another option. I just even if you sign Sam Darnold to a $40 million contract, he's probably at best going to have the same numbers as what Aaron Rodgers had last year. And at least Aaron Rodgers has the continuity with Garrett Wilson and with the team, and he is like the locker room leader. And I think his story is pretty cool about his like journey back from the Achilles injury as well. Sam Darnold, I think, does provide some inconsistencies that you have to worry about, and just not at that level of greatness
Yeah.
that Aaron Rodgers provides, even at the
There's no
age
way
of
in
40.
my eyes that Sam Darnold comes back.
I
Uh,
it I'm just throwing it out there, ignoring every like the past between
yeah.
the two, between the player and the organization. I agree with you. That's where I think to me, I just feel that just the easiest way is like let's just stick with Aaron Rodgers for another year. Another position that we didn't really address was the quarterback position. It's possible maybe they go Jackson Dart. It's possible maybe they go with Quinn Ewers or
Will
maybe
Howard.
Will Howard or someone like that. But it would be to me, it would just be kind of doing the same thing as what you did with Jordan Travis last year. Right? I think you picked him there in round 5, I believe.
Yeah.
It's like maybe a guy can develop. Maybe you find a diamond in the rough that Rodgers can mentor, can work with because he said he would mentor. But I also think too, you're just maybe just kicking the can down the road while you have a top 20 quarterback in the league. Like I think a lot of teams right now would want to have Aaron Rodgers on their team just with his talent. And so, but we'll just kind of have to wait and see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be really interesting to kind of see how that situation unfolds. It's funny, I'm actually leaning more towards Aaron Rodgers will not play football next year, and he will probably retire, which I think it's total speculation on both sides, but I'm curious just to see how that situation goes down. But
Yeah. I really want him to go play for Minnesota just to do the full Brett Favre.
do the Favre.
Yeah, just do the full Brett Favre path, and just wrap it up. And then Brett Favre, at Minnesota right now, probably going to lose Sam Darnold. JJ McCarthy's still a little unknown, and it would be a good little segue. If the Jets and Minnesota would want to make a trade, who knows? Who knows? Just throwing it out there.
Yeah, well, Minnesota unfortunately doesn't have the draft capital to go and get Aaron Rodgers, I think, this year. So,
No.
it'll be interesting. This is definitely one of the more intriguing offseason situations going into it. One, because they need to create cap space, but then two, with Aaron Rodgers there as well. But let us know. Let's go ahead and wrap up this video here. Let us know down below what you thought of this New York Jets mock draft. Did you love it? Did you hate it? While you're down there, go ahead and like and subscribe. That is the best way to help out the channel. And other than that, we will see you guys next time.